Baruch here, and I want to talk about a game that I think everybody is familiar with, and one that I am sick and tired of playing. Yes, Uno, the card game. World famous and beloved, I think. Well, I know it's everywhere. Every time I leave the house and go play a game with somebody, they tend to bring this game out, and I go, okay, great. I'll play it with them. It's not a bad game, it's just no masterpiece, and a victory of Uno doesn't really give me that satisfaction, doesn't really want me to play again, or doesn't give me the feeling that I want to play again. So I put together a small list of games that I think you might really enjoy as well. There's a small asterisk here. This list has 4 games on it that are for 2 players only. I'm going to have a separate list that is 2 players and more. Those games are going to be more party games. This list is just 4 very simple, light games that are going to give you that feeling of satisfaction that you played a game. And to start it off, in no particular order, let's just do this. Battle Line by Rainer Knizia. Battle Line Medieval, like every game on this list, is a light 2-player card game. So light, in fact, the rules can fit on one folded piece of paper. Yep, that's it. That's the rule book right there. So, how do you win and how do you play? It's simple. To win, you have to conquer any 5 objectives on the board, or any 3 objectives that are directly next to each other. How do you conquer an objective? Great question. You have to play a better hand of cards than your opponent. Well, how do you know what cards are better than your opponent? Simple. It's just like poker. You follow the basic poker rules, except these hands are going to be 3 cards instead of your typical 5. And in this game, we refer to them as formations. So you just have to create a better formation of 3 cards than your opponent. Well, let's just say you forgot what is a stronger hand, what's a weaker hand. The rules are right there. Let's just say, in general, you forgot how to play Battle Line. Oh, that's great. Well, the rules are right there, can fit on one solid playing card. Yeah, this game is deceptively simple. There's not really much more I can add to this game, or add to this explanation that's going to give you a more in-depth view of the game. The rules are very simple. You and your opponent are going to be playing 1 card at a time, and then you are going to either draw a troop card. Troops are the cards that have the suits and the numbers, or you are going to be drawing a tactics card. So the tactics cards over here are very powerful cards that are going to shift the balance of the game in your favor. That's really it. Not much more I can add. The game is very, very simple, and I'm going to keep hammering that point home because it really is a simple game. Now, I will also say that if you go to a game store and you find yourself Schottentoten, keep in mind that Schottentoten is the exact same game as Battle Line, except it just goes under its original title, under a different publisher, and under a different box size. That's really one of the major differences. Aside from that, there aren't very many differences between Schottentoten or Battle Line. One of the few differences is the rulebook. Schottentoten's rulebook is much thicker, much more art and things going on there. Now, that's actually because Schottentoten's version is language independent. What that means is, take a look at the cards over here. These are the tactics cards for Battle Line. All the rules and how to play them are right here written on the card. Now, for Schottentoten, they don't really have any rules written on the cards, they just have the picture. So you actually have to memorize what the cards do. That's one minor difference. This next difference, this is actually the one that's going to make it or break it on which version you are going to want. See, the battlefields or the objectives in Schottentoten are cardboard chits. Nice little cardboard chits. Does that change the game at all? No, not really. Does it add to the game? Yes and no. But Battle Lines is a little different. Let me grab these up real quick and I will show you. See, the artwork on these is beautiful, but they also have something very extra, very special. If you flip them over, now each objective or battlefield now has an entirely unique set of rules of how to conquer that specific battlefield. So for me, this subtle difference completely changes the way the game plays in general. Now, if you're going to play with this extra set of rules, you do remove the tactics cards from the game, because playing with the tactics cards and these extra variants, these extra rules, makes for a very boring experience. It's not very fun. But whichever version you play, I promise you it's going to be a good time. Standard version or the advanced version, yeah, they're both fantastic. Whether you go pick up Battle Line or Shoten Toten, I promise you you're going to have a good time. Shoten Toten should typically run you about $15, nothing more than that. But Battle Line, you'll find it at least $25 to $35. So really, it's just going to come down to which art you like better, what suits your budget more, or really that's it. Up to you. But like I said, either version you pick up, you're going to have a good time. I promise. So yeah, whatever version of Battle Line you get, whether it's Battle Line Medieval, Battle Line, or just Shoten Toten, you're going to have a good time, I promise. We'll jump to the next game. This next game is actually readily available and could be found in almost any major bookstore, and I've even seen it at Walmart and Target on occasion. This game is now, it's its second printing, so it's much more beautiful now, but whatever version you get, it's still worth it. Let's take a look at Jaipur. Jaipur is a merchant trading game where you and one opponent are contesting for 2 seals of excellence. So the first player to collect 2 seals of excellence wins the game. But how does one collect a seal of excellence? Good question. The person with the most points at the end of a round collects a seal of excellence. But how do we know a round is over? Good question. We know a round is over when the deck is depleted and we can no longer fill the market back up to 5 cards. Or if 3 of these supplies have been completely depleted, then the round is also over and scoring takes place. So this is really a simple game. Most of the games on this list are very simple. This one might feel complex, but I promise you it's much simpler than it sounds. The goal of the game is to collect big groups of a single card and sell them for extra bonuses. So on your turn, you really only have 2 options. You're either going to be taking cards from the market or you're going to be selling cards from your hand. So the only options on your turn, actions on your turn are take, which means you can take a single good, or you can take all the camels in the market. And if you take all the camels in the market must be filled back up to 5. It's simple, right? Now the other thing you could do is take, which means you could just take a single card from the market, any single card that you want to, and then it gets filled in later. Now, since the game is really about collecting big groups of the same card, these 2 right here, these are silver, these are high profit goods. So you want to make sure you can get those in your hand as often as possible. So there's a third option available to you on your turn, and that's called exchange. Now that means I can take as many cards as many goods from the market that I want to, and I could exchange them for cards in my hand and also camels. So let's say I wanted these 2 silver. Boom. I'm going to replace them for 2 camels. Now I have some pretty good silver in my hand which I can sell and gain some points. Silver is worth 5 points. Now, there's some other nuances that go on in this game. These are special bonuses over here. So if you sell 5 of the same good, even if it's a low quality good like this, you're still going to get that. You're still going to get the 4 victory points for that. 4 points. And then you're also going to get a bonus, which would be around 10 points. And these are all randomized, so you never really know what bonus is going to come up. So even if you sell it for 3 good, 3 rubies. Rubies are the highest valued, which are 7. And since you only sold 3, you're only going to get 2 extra points for that. So yeah, that's really it. The game doesn't get much more complex than that. Once again, I didn't go over every rule. This is just a general overview. But I think you can tell by just looking at this whether this game is really going to be worth it to you or not. But I will say that out of all the games on this list, this is the one that gets brought to the table way more often. I think it's just the simplicity. Now, looking at it from the outside, it does seem a little bit more complex. So there's chits, tokens, there's camels, there's goods. But I promise you this game is much easier than I'm making it out to be. There's also some great rules explanations on YouTube. You can check those out. But yeah, Jaipur. This, I believe, is its second printing. The original printing is in a green box and it's a little bit thinner. And I believe the only difference is that the actual, I forget what this is called, the little case, the insert. Yeah, thank you. The insert for this version fits sleeved cards. I believe the green version doesn't. Other than that, I don't believe there's any difference. But yeah, that being said, Jaipur should run you about $25. This game is readily available. You can find it almost anywhere. And yeah, take a look at it, and I hope you have a good time. So yeah, that's Jaipur. Incredibly light, incredibly simple. I've had this game the shortest out of all 4 of the games on this list, and this is the one I'm able to get to the table more often, so that should tell you something. The next game I want to talk about, in my opinion, I think is the most beautiful on this list, but we're also going to take a look at an honorable mention, because I own the honorable mention, I just haven't had a chance to play it yet. So let's take a look at The Fox in the Forest. Fox in the Forest is a trick-taking game for 2 players and 2 players only, which is incredibly fascinating because most trick-taking games are terrible with 2 players. Yet this game found a way to make this an interesting concept and an incredibly engaging theme and an engaging mechanics. So if you're unfamiliar with a trick-taking game, I'll explain. 2 players are contesting to play the better card and then are going to calculate points after all the cards in their hand have been burned. Now for this particular game, the first player to reach 21 victory points is the winner. So that's simple enough. So to do a trick taking, or to play a trick I should say, you take a look at your hand and you decide which card you're going to play. Boom, let's say the 2 of keys. Now this player must play a key, must follow the suit of the lead trick. This card is a lead trick. They played a key. This player must go through their hand and play a key. All these other cards are now locked out. They must play one of the 2 key cards they have in their hand. So they will now have to make a decision. Do they want to lose the trick or do they want to win the trick? Because you have to play the better card. This player has a 1, which means they will lose. A 10, it's higher than a 2, they will win that trick. Now, why is that type of decision making important in this game? I'll explain. This is what really makes Fox in the Forest a unique game. The scoring. See, the scoring in this game goes as such. At the end of a round, which means both players have burned through their hands, if they have 0 to 3 tricks, they earn 6 victory points. All right, not bad. If they have 4 tricks, they only gain 1 victory point. So that means the less tricks that they win, the more victory points they will get. That's fascinating. We'll keep going down. If you have 5 tricks, you only get 2 points. 6 tricks, 3 points. 7 to 9 tricks, you've gained 6 victory points. Okay, not bad. But here's what also makes this fascinating. If you have 10 to 13 tricks, they call that playing greedy. You now have 0 points for that. So that right there, that subtle difference in of calculating points in a trick-taking game makes this an incredibly engaging game. So maybe you didn't really completely understand what was going on with that first example. This person played a 2. This person now has to make a decision about how the rest of their hand is going to go. Are they going to try to play by winning as many tricks as possible, meaning they're not going to go for the humble victory, which means 0 to 3 tricks, which is going to give them 6 points? Or are they going to just try to go for the victorious victory and try to win 7 to 9 tricks? Basically based off 1 card. I mean, this is awesome. This is a lot of fun. It's simple. It's a well-tested mechanic Trick taking has been around for years, but in my opinion, games really haven't done it this well, especially for 2 players. And maybe if that hasn't convinced you enough, let me show you what else is going on in this game. You also have cards here that are going to impact, with what I should also mention, they're only the even cards, so it's 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, are going to affect the way that the tricks are handled after you've seen who wins. Some cards are going to allow you to change the trump card, which is also referred to as the decree card here. Some cards are going to let you draw from the draw deck and discard a card from your hand. So there's a lot in this game, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And the deck is only 33 cards. I mean, this is fascinating for a little game. Fox in the Forest should run you about $15 to $20, and if you find it in a game store, I highly suggest picking it up. It is on the harder to find side. I rarely see this at game stores, and rarely do I ever hear anybody talk about it. But I highly, highly, highly recommend Fox in the Forest, especially if you're familiar with trick taking. I also did mention that I'm going to do a honorable mention. Fox in the Forest has a sequel. This game was so successful that it developed a sequel. Fox in the Forest Duet. This I sadly have not played. This is still a trick-taking game, so it's going to be amazing. I love most trick-taking games. Well, simple trick-taking games. Some of them get too complex, but these 2 are simple trick-taking games. But this is different because this is a cooperative game. So let me move some of this out of the way so I can show you some cool stuff. Let's move that over there. That's fine as is. But Fox in the Forest Duet has a board. You are collecting gems. You're moving up and down the track over here to collect gems cooperatively. Like I said, you're working together and trying to not get lost in the forest. And it also has a deck of 30 playing cards as well as 2 reference cards. Now, the art in this game, in both of these games, is phenomenal. I love the art in both of these games. I mean, even the way they designed the suits are just amazing. Now, I will mention, I have not had the chance to play this game yet, but I will give it an honorable mention because it's in the Fox in the Forest family. And if they continue to make games in this series, I'm going to continue to collect them. So that being said, I love this game. Go out and buy it. I have not played this game, but I'm going to give it an honorable mention, and I'm going to say give it a shot. So yeah, Fox in the Forest and Fox in the Forest Duet. Like I said, some of the most beautiful games on this list. Fox in the Forest. And also Fox in the Forest is a great game. I absolutely love it, and I have high expectations for the Duet. So for the final game on this list, I'm not going to say it's the most hard to find on this list, it's just most people tend to ignore it when they see it on the shelf. And amazingly, it has such a popular IP, I have a hard time seeing why people would pass this up. But I think it's just a small box that tends to throw people off. Anyways, let's take a look at Star Wars Empire vs. the Rebellion. Star Wars Empire vs. Rebellion is a push-your-luck blackjack style game where the Empire is locked in mortal battle with the Rebellion essentially playing blackjack. Initially, that probably isn't going to sound very interesting to a lot of people, but I will say that this game is much deeper and much more fascinating than it sounds, which is probably why this game isn't talked about as much, although I really do think this game should be. Now, yes, it is blackjack, and a lot of people are familiar with blackjack, but this game takes it to a whole new level. Now, the blackjack, you're attempting to get closer to 21 without going over. In this game, you use the event deck to dictate what number you guys are trying to get at. Now, for example, this is number 7. Now, this card right here is going to give you a lot of information. Let's zoom in a little bit, see if we can get that. Can we focus in on that? There we go. So this number right here, that's how many victory points the card is worth. The first player to 7 victory points wins. This right here is going to gain you influence if you win. I'll explain to you what influence does in just a moment. This number right here, that 5, the little 5 hexes down there, that's how many cards you can have in play. Now this number right here, that 7, that's the number you cannot go over. If you go over, you bust and your opponent wins, and then they take this effect right down here. So this number, the objective number, is constantly shifting because of the event deck. It could be 7, winning you 1 victory point. It could be 13, winning you 2 victory points and only 1 initiative token. Or it could be 10 with a limit of 4 cards and get 3 victory points. So this game is constantly shifting, but it essentially follows the similar rules of blackjack with a few variations. For example, we first see who has initiative. Great. The rebels have initiative. Now both of these starting decks are exactly the same. What's going to change is the heroes that you put into it. You're going to have these on reserve so you can use them whenever you need, or whatever certain cards have effects that tell you you're going to bring them in. But you start off by customizing your deck at the beginning by adding a few of these. We won't worry about that right now. This isn't going to be a full in-depth rules explanation. This is just an overview so you can get an idea of if you are going to like this game or not. But yeah, so it is just like blackjack. On your turn, you draw a card. Great. 2 on the way to 7. Clear. Play passes. 5 on the way to 7. That's close to a bust. They probably don't want to hit the next card because that might go over. So right over here, this card, now they're going to say, heck, we're going to hit. That's 5 right there. That's 5 closest to 5. That's a tie basically, but here's the thing. We didn't really talk about strategy cards. Now strategies you're going to pick at the beginning of the round when the event card is shown, or excuse me, revealed. You're going to pick your strategy. Once both players have passed, the strategies take effect. You read the strategies first and go from there. For example, right over here, the rebels is when determining the victor, increase your total resource value by 2. Resource value is 2, 5 plus 2. That's now 7. They win immediately. Excellent. Right? So that's basically it. It goes back and forth. There's some extra powers that the cards have, which really makes the game interesting in general. If you want to, you can use a special power, discard one of your opponent's resource cards of your choice. You can destroy an opponent's card. Amazing. You can burn an influence to get that card back, and you're going to go back and forth until both players pass. And then you see who wins the objective. It feels complex, but I don't really think it's as complex as it comes off to be. It is simple. It's a tried and tested game mechanic, very similar to Fox and the Forest being a trick-taking game. There's thousands of trick-taking games. This is blackjack with a Star Wars theme and a Star Wars feeling to it as well. You definitely feel both players at each other's throat. So yeah, this game is a lot of fun, and I highly suggest picking this up. Now this game isn't actually talked about as much because it's a small box Star Wars game, and I really feel as if a lot of people don't like small box Star Wars. Or if you want to play Star Wars, you want the miniatures, you want to go play Imperial Assault, or you want to go play Star Wars Rebellion, or even the miniatures game and things like that. I don't think people really want to be playing small card games like this. But I think that's a mistake because this game really does have a lot of replay value, and you really feel a Star Wars victory here. Now the rule book, I will mention, is a little long. A little long. It even has a scenario in here for you to learn how to play. I thought that was interesting. So there are some... They're acknowledging that this isn't traditional blackjack, that they've really thrown a lot in for blackjack. So, yeah, Star Wars Empire versus Rebellion. Take a look at it. It shouldn't be that hard to find. I've seen this at Barnes & Noble, so it's definitely out there. The game shouldn't run you more than $15. So if you do see it lying around, do yourself a favor, pick it up. I promise you're going to have 1 or 2 friends who are going to want to give this a shot. So, yeah, Star Wars Empire versus Rebellion. So that was Star Wars Empire vs. Rebellion. And this was 4 games that I think are better than Uno. And this whole little outro thing right here is just me saying thank you to you for making it this far in the video. Because yes, I know it's a little long-winded. But then again, If you made it this far in the video, then that probably means you like talking about games, you probably like listening to games, probably like hearing about games, and in which case you should probably subscribe and then go follow me on Instagram, hashtag blank dice, trust me, I'm everywhere. Yeah, and then you should tell me what you thought about the video, and I would love to hear what you thought about the 4 games that I chose. See, I like those 4 games. I like them a lot. I like them enough to make a video out of them. But what about you? What if you didn't? I want to hear about that. I want to hear about what games you're playing, what games you like, what games you don't like. Even this right here is even long-winded. But that all being said, is just thank you and mad love. Okay, bye-bye.